Morning, Mike.
Good morning.
David Moore, Dallas Morning News. How do you balance when you lose your quarterback for an extended period? How do you balance telling the team and giving the message that we need some people to step up, but don't do too much? I mean, how does that message get across?
I mean, it really flows into your game planning because at the end of the day, when we conclude the evaluation process on Mondays, we dive right into the next opponent immediately, and it's like what do we need to do to win, and regardless of who's playing quarterback. So we all understand, that's our responsibility. We all understand the strengths and weaknesses, and really the direction we want to go, offense, defense, and special teams. So to me, it's really part of the game plan process. So that's why we sit in there on Monday nights and Tuesdays and make sure it's clean. And so as far as Scooper Rush, we don't feel like there's really any limitations on what we want to do. I mean, he's as rehearsed in this offense as anybody. Him and Kellen, they go back to prior when I got here. So. And that's really the way we go about it. And it's no different with the left guard, the left tackle. That's all part of the game plan process.
So it's really more structure, just you're the ones that give them the structure and just say, just do your jobs more than anyone needs to.
Definitely, we all have a job to do. I mean, that's really what you talk about, coming off the 90 down to the 53 and the opportunity to keep the practice squad. I love this. I love the roster structure now. So, to keep all your guys, it's all that plays into it, and that's a big part of, it's really my job description, job responsibility for everybody, for the coordinators, for the coaches, for the players, how it fits together. And ultimately on Sunday, and that's something we talk about all the time, is support the 48, because at the end of the day, we got 48 of our Warriors that get to dress, but everybody else has a role. We don't need any cheerleaders. We don't, not as a negative. I mean, just in the term, we don't. Everybody has a role of support for those 48 players. So that's what we work towards, Monday through Saturday.
John.
John Michaud, The Athletic. We never really got into why Jalen Tolbert wasn't active. What does he have to do to be active on Sunday?
I mean, he's a young player that, frankly, a lot has been asked of him. So, and that's, we were all so impressed, when he arrived, and so, in the hamstring injury really played a factor in this because, having him play all the positions, treating him, frankly, how we treated CD when CD arrived. And not really having the opportunities early on special teams, he's a step behind the other guys, and that's really all it is. And you need to get that, Clarence. I mean, we can stop the press conference. I mean, it's not that important. I don't have anything to do next. So, but no, I just think it's it's just kind of where Jalen is, and I think you have to recognize Dennis and Simi for what they've done. So, but yeah, he's full go. Just really the last 2 weeks, he's been crushing it in practice, and so I look for him to push for future opportunities.
Clarence Hill for Chicago. What's been the mood of the team this week? Have you seen it upbeat? It grows. Obviously there should be a downer after the game, after that loss, but have you seen it?
Yeah, I'll say this. The practice, and you got to watch this stuff too. I mean, because we're all products of potentially overreacting, and because when I can't tell you how many times you walk off the practice field and you're like, whoa, that energy may not have been the best, or boy, that was a very energetic practice. And unfortunately, the video, and fortunately and unfortunately, I sound like someone I used to work with. But anyways, fortunately, I'm covering both sides of this. But you watch the video and it's the opposite. So my point is, like the work yesterday from the video and the energy and the GPS was actually excellent, but it didn't feel that way. So that's like anything. So that tells me, okay, we're all looking too hard. Let's just let's keep we talk to the players all the time about trust your training, stay with it. We lost the game to an excellent football team, a very experienced football team, and so we evaluated that on Monday. So I thought our work was really good yesterday, but this is the most important day. This is the padded work. But yeah, so the mood, they're into it. I mean, we had the team meeting. We had a unique thing today, and just one of the players shared something. I'm not going to get into it. If they want to get into it, I'm sure you can ask them in the locker room. But so the energy and the outlook. I mean, we're focused on beating the Bengals.
Sure.
Mike Jory, Epstein, USA Today. We hear a lot about Cooper knowing the offense, Cooper being cerebral. Can you give us an example of a time, whether it was in practice or in a meeting, that he brought something up that showed you his understanding of the offense?
I mean, almost daily. Something we always done, and Kellen and Doug do the same. Is your backup quarterback is part of the presentation process. During the course of the week. So on Friday he'll do a blitz review. So I mean it's then your third quarterback he has a presentation responsibility too. So it's once again it's all about growth and development. Every position room has that concept that's part of that part of that. So yeah, and Cooper is. He does an excellent job of that. But there's questions that come up during the week, so it's, I don't think there's, but that's what the quarterback room looks like. There's a lot of collaboration.
Related question on that. Dalton Schultz mentioned he's been in the quarterback meetings now more, that he's not working on special teams. How many non-quarterbacks are in that meeting?
Well, I mean, it's funny Dalton brought that up because I know I've talked about Zeke being in there, and Dalton's been in there with Zeke, so I hope I don't offend Dalton's feelings, Dalton's quarterback smart. I mean, it's great to have those guys in there, and actually, L. Dub comes in there too, Lunda, his position coach. So this is more training camp, and I just love that part of it because, there's always a good question and they listen mostly, but I think it's excellent. I think it just tells you about our teaching environment.
Got it.
Skyler Dixon with DAP. A little bit related to David's question. He's come across to us as kind of a quiet guy. Some of his teammates say the same thing. How does that personality translate to what his job is here, which is just kind of steady the ship and keep it going?
I think like anything, when you look at a room and you're trying to, there's development involved. I mean, different personalities, I think, makes the best. I think if you have too much of one personality, it's convenient, it's comfortable, but I think it can limit your growth. So I think if you look at Cooper's personality aligned with Dak, I mean, that's a very good blend. So that's the first point. Second point, Cooper's strength is his confidence in his detail. I mean, when he steps in, because so much about the command of the huddle is goes from the play entry of the coordinator to the quarterback, because the players can hear it. They can hear the play coming in, but then as how the quarterback takes that play into the huddle. So one thing about Cooper, and you can see it just the way he plays, but he's very consistent. So there's definitely a steadying of the ship personality in him, and what's good about it, he's that way every day. So I think his personality is excellent. And I think it's a great fit for Dak, and I like the way the room's built.
Got it.
Mike Todd Archer with ESPN. I'm not asking if Diggs is going to follow Chase around the field, but when you look at potentially doing that, what are the things you have to take into consideration around making that kind of move?
I mean, everything. To be honest with you, I mean, you got to remember, Dan and the staff and the defensive players. There's, some coordinators I've been with, whether it's an offensive normal down distance packages or your defense in their concepts, how they do it. Some guys call it the dirty dozen. Some guys call it the terrific 20. And what I'm talking about is, there's calls that we've been working on since April. So you want to live in that as much as you can, because that's where the reps, that's where the instincts and awareness is at its highest level. So that's usually your starting point. And then you get into the specialization of how you want to attack the opponent. What are their strengths? Where do you think the stress points are as far as perimeter matchups, protection matchups? So that all plays in it too. So it's great conversation, and I think the media and the public have done a tremendous job in the last 10, 15 years of really recognizing the matchups and fantasy football and all those things play into it. But that's really not how it works. When you get into game plan development and in the construction of a game plan, because there's definitely matchups that you're always conscious of, but which situation can you really lock into it? Are they moving the matchup? Stress point around, all those things play into it. But at the end of the day, if you can line up and run the concepts you have so much invested in and are rehearsed in, I think it's common sense. You'd like to stay in that. So there's always a balancing act in that. It's just not like, hey, why doesn't he, follow, a player follow B player all over the field, regardless of where. That's a fair question, but it's a little harder to pull off, and you can't rep that all spring and can't rep that all summer. Those types of things. You can rep the concepts, and if you want to double team a guy or things like that. So it's a little bit of a balancing act.
Cal.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Yesterday we talked about CDs. It's going to get a lot of attention. And as play callers, how do you have to manage? We got to take care of our guy, but also we got some other people too. We want to get involved.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a little bit, going back to Todd's question. I mean, that's the construction of a game plan. I mean, that's, first time I ever saw was, Paul Hackett, and he always talked about in San Francisco, they had the Jerry Rice list and John Taylor. And, so, those, that is carried forward for generations on, that's why you have more than 2 pages on your call sheet. If you look at call sheets, I never looked at the call sheet as a call sheet. I looked at it as a worksheet. When you work on it throughout the week, that's why it's 6 pages instead. I mean, you really use 2 during the game, but those with the other categories. I know personally what I would carry on. Hey, make sure you get the ball to, CD. Make sure here's the top 10 throws. You already have the plays on the call sheet, but they're good reminders how you list. Plays for Tony, plays for Zeke, plays for CD. Plays for Dalton. So that's all part of the game plan process.
I'm going to follow up. Did Gallup do any team yesterday?
Yeah, Michael did team. He actually did 7-on-7. So we're going to. Really, this will be his first day in pads, so we're going to try to give him a little more today. Did a nice job. Looked good.
Ed.
Yeah, Mike Edwarder, ESPN. What's your evaluation at this point of Jason Peters' readiness, and do you envision him initially being a left tackle, a right tackle, a starter, a backup?
Well, he's definitely stepped it up from last week, and he's right on schedule based on the plan. It's I compare it to ramp up because that's really. The conversation that Jason and I had from day one. So, he did more yesterday than he did Wednesday and Thursday last week. We look to increase that today. As far as the lineup, we'll that's to be determined. But we're talking about the same options that you've mentioned.
Brad Sham, Cowboys Radio. What are Mukwamu's strengths right now, and physically, how does he compare to Pierce?
Well, I mean, J.K. is a lot more experience, but Israel has made a huge jump from last year. I mean, and the biggest thing is his strength and confidence. And I think his path has been impressive. I mean, he's clearly, probably one of the guys at the front of the line for making a jump from year 1 to 2. So I'm just really happy and proud he is. I mean, we all are. I mean, he's put so much extra time in. I mean, he was, during the off-season program, he'd come in the morning for the workouts, and he'd come back in the afternoon. I'm talking 4 days a week. So he'd come back in the afternoon for a second session. So it's nice. I just want to make sure, because I am very proud of him. But, he has a lot of the same characteristics as J.K. with the length, the ability for matchup. Obviously played corner in college. He gives you some matchup capability, at the safety position.
Christy Scales, Cowboys Radio. But looking at the Bengals defense, specifically the pass rush, and Hendrickson had such a breakout year last year, they able to generate a lot just with their front four? Does it lose a lot of extra?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm very disciplined. I mean, you can see they all play to the similar technique. They do really good job of collapsing the shoulder on the rush. With their helmet placement. I'm just going through some of the things. There's a lot of, to me, that's coaching, it's experience, and really the thing that I've been most impressed with their front is their second and third reaction, and that's something we got to do a really good job of. So they do a good job of block destruction and getting off blocks, in second, third effort. In the pass rush. So, we always talk about winning above the 2.3. This will be a huge emphasis, and because they're pretty darn good at it.
Mike, on the Dak front, how much as he's going through this is protecting him from himself? Because you told us yesterday, these guys want to play, they want to get out there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, talking again with Dak last night, and it really. What I advised them to do was, self-care. Make sure something as simple as get your rest. I mean, I'm sure all of us have had an operation along the way, and it takes a couple of days. So, And that's really what he's been focused on. He didn't get a lot of sleep the first night, so he's in the healing phase, just like we talked about yesterday. So I mean, he's going to take at least 7 to 10 days before he can do anything. I mean, that's talking to the medical staff. So he just needs to heal right now.
Clarence.
Any lessons, as we talk about Gallup and you ramping him back up, is there any lessons from what Tampa and Godwin went through Sunday night? I mean, he comes back in ACL and he looks good early, then he suffers a hamstring injury.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but it's that whole thing about, trying to get that padded practice work, because that's the closest you can get to a game. So, and I have no idea what their process is, and I think you see the path that we have Michael on, this will be his first padded practice since last year. So, that's the way we're looking at it, and if he crosses that hurdle today, and then hopefully we'll do more next week.
Michael Gelkin, Dallas Morning News. How many reps and time on task goes into an option route between quarterback and receiver? And when you're making that change at quarterback, even if you're running your offense, how cognizant do you have to be of just that time on task that some of these guys don't have with Cooper?
A lot of great questions today, but this is my favorite, so we get to talk a little ball here. But no, I've never been a big option route thrower or concept in the past.
Technology. I can't get enough of you.
We got McCarthy in stereo.
Yeah, it's a little weird hearing your voice, but to answer your question, option routes take a lot of time. And option, if you're in a traditional West Coast offense, it's.
I gotta go listen to you.
I tell you, we need to win this week, because this thing's turning into a zoo in here. But yeah, but option routes. So. They take a lot of time, Michael. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if you're going to run option routes, you need to live in that world. That's been my experience. You can't dabble on it. Option routes are really not part of the old traditional West Coast offense. I've had quarterbacks in the past that didn't really like them, and it's really about the connection that they have with the receiver. I've been in systems where only certain guys run them. This is the most aggressive system that I've been in, as far as many people that do run the option routes, and so I think you see our commitment to practice. We practice it a lot, and you have to, because there's intricacies in there, and I mean, because if you're clearly going to be about making it quarterback friendly, which our system is, and everything fits his footwork and time clock, option routes, you're putting the decision making into the receiver's hands. It's not into the court. Quarterback obviously has ultimate decision where to throw the ball, but there's decision making in a route as opposed to, maybe just one route adjustment. So it takes a lot of extra time.
As a quick follow up to that, Dak might know, all right, Noah in this situation is going to make this decision based on the coverage, or CD is going to make this decision. Does Cooper have that same knowledge with all his guys, or just as a reality of time on task, does he not?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't be in it if we didn't think so. So, and it's really not the understanding, because we're definitely way far enough down the line that clearly have an understanding. Versus, you got the release first bump, and then you got to attack the leverage, then you got to reset the stem, and then the decision's made. So, and obviously the decision's being made as they come up, they reset the stem. So, we're all in tune with that, but it's different footwork. I mean, they're really the balance of the third and fourth step in the cleats in the ground, and the ability to react to a guy that maybe doesn't push the stem as long, comes out early, as opposed to someone that's really taking their time and getting their depth and then comes. So those are the intricacies of why there's so much time that goes into that route. It's really the quarterback footwork and the accuracy, because at the end of the day, you're running option routes for a reason. You're running for man and match coverage, which you're going to see most of the time in this league. So and they have to have the ability and awareness to punch and pivot and give the quarterback the window to throw over his zone.
Good morning, Coach. Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. A couple quick questions. One, as Jason Peters continues his ramp up, did he take a step forward and do anything more so on Wednesday than he had done to this point? And James Washington, we saw him out there doing some work. How's his progression coming?
Yeah, James is moving forward. I think we're going to do a little more with him next week. But Jason did. He took a lot more individual So, the pad to work is obviously the most important for him today. So we definitely want to ramp it up some of the individual. And that's the plan. But he's got to warm up, and there's a prehab segment, with Brett that he goes through, and then there'll be some decisions made from that too.
Is that it?
Is Jason working the right and left tackle or just left tackle? What is he, Peters?
Can't tell you, man. Not yet.